pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, I got to turn this thing on. All right, everybody. Welcome to the March 24th Jackson Township Planning Board meeting. This meeting has been appropriately noticed in all the proper places and forums according to the Open Public Meetings Act. I believe that we are still waiting on the applicant's attorney, so we'll conduct board business first.
Good evening, everyone. Sure, my mic is on. I'd like a motion on payment of voucher for recording secretary for March 24th, please.
So moved, Sullivan.
Second, Heller.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Bernstein, Mr. Marzo, Mr. Heller,
Yes.
Mr. Rogers, Mr. Treamer,
Yes.
Miss Rose,
Yes.
Mr. Weingart, Mr. Sullivan,
Yes.
Dr. Campbell.
Yes. Approval of the minutes for March 10th, please. Regular meeting, we need a motion, please.
I'll make that motion, Sullivan.
Second, Dreamer.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Heller,
Yes.
Mr. Rogers, Mr. Treamer,
Yes.
Miss Rose,
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan,
Yes.
Dr. Campbell.
Yes. And we have one resolution this evening, 2025-10.
Resolution 2025-10, resolution of the Planning Board of the Township of Jackson, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, granting preliminary and final major site plan approval for the construction of a contractor's warehouse and business park for H.W. Jackson LLC, Block 2603, Lots 5 and 22. Eligible to vote are Mr. Heller, Ms. Rose, Mr. Treamer, Mr. Sullivan, and Dr. Campbell.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second, Heller.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Heller,
Yes.
Ms. Rose,
Yes.
Mr. Treamer,
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan,
Yes.
and Dr. Campbell.
Yes. Thank you. Ms. Jennings, when you're ready. We can do roll call also, if you want, while we're waiting. We really didn't, but we know who's here.
We did roll call.
Yeah, well, we did.
We didn't do the changes to the agenda schedule,
That's
though.
always waiting for Ms. Jennings, because she is, yeah, I thought we did, but maybe my mind is going.
Thank you. Good evening. For the record, I'm Donna Jennings from the law firm of Wilentz, Goldman and Spitzer. As the board is aware, we're here this evening on this application seeking an extension of the,
Hold it for a minute. I'm looking for the change in the agenda schedule, and you requested, was it you who requested a change in the agenda from April 7th to July 7th?
oh, you mean, yes.
Yes. So that's why we were waiting for you.
Gotcha.
So, Block 19501, Lot 21, Kahal Nashas Avos, Inc. is carried from April 7th to July 7th with notice required. That okay for you, Ms. Jennings? July 7th?
Yes.
We'll take a motion on approving that, please.
So moved to move block 19501, lot 21, location 26 Whitesville Road to July 7th, 2025.
Second, Heller.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried. Okay. So therefore, since we have no application on April 7th, that meeting will be canceled. I'm certain there's heartbreak, but we'll take a motion on that to cancel that meeting, please.
I motion that we cancel the April 7th, 2025 Planning Board meeting.
Second, Heller.
All approved?
Yes.
Yes.
No one complaining? That's carried. All right. Now that we've finished with board business, Ms. Jennings will get to you. Thank you. We are.
Okay. Thank you again, Donna Jennings from the law firm of Walens, Goldman, and Spitzer. On behalf of the applicant, as the board is aware, the applicant is here this evening seeking an extension of a minor subdivision approval for property located on Pitney Lane, identified as Block 21001, Lot 24. As the board will remember, we sought a simple minor subdivision to create a developable lot, and then we were going to dedicate the remaining parcel of the property to the township. I have with me to the left our site engineer, Joseph Portnoy, who will just state for the record where the applicant is with meeting the conditions of the approval and why the applicant is seeking an extension of time.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Or please state your name and spell your last to the record.
Joseph Portnoy, P-O-R-T-N-O-Y, licensed professional engineer, New Jersey, my license is standing, I've been before this board several occasions.
Welcome back. We accept your credentials. Make sure to speak into the microphone and up. I'm not sure if it's on.
I don't know if it's on. I can't hear a thing.
A
Okay,
week better.
there we go.
There we
Oh,
go.
much better.
Much
Thank
better.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, good evening. As Ms. Jen noted, we've received approval in July of 2025. We have obtained the majority of the outside agency approvals. One, I believe, primary outstanding one is Ocean County Planning Board. But even that one, we've been back and forth with them, and the last item, we just need to file a couple easements in order to fulfill their last conditions. So we're close. We're close on getting through the conditions, but we still need a little more time to just finalize that.
Any questions from members? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, the one condition was not a resolution condition, but was one of the outstanding comments regarding the pedestrian safety fund. Just as a reminder, this property was part of a subdivision originally filed in 1987. At that time, the board apparently only required sidewalk on one side of the street, so there was a sidewalk installed on the opposite side of Pitney Lane. There's no sidewalk installed on the north side of Pitney Lane along the entire subdivision. So it was apparently the subdivision was adopted in 1987, which was prior to the township sidewalk ordinance. So we will not find any evidence of that a waiver was granted or a fund was a kind of contribution. So we requested a waiver from providing sidewalk based on the fact that there's no sidewalk there. There's no, along the entire subdivision along here. And that waiver was granted with the condition that the applicant makes a condition to the safety fund. We received the estimate from the board engineer for the contribution. That contribution is over $40,000. So applicant has now been getting pricing on reconstructing the basin. It is coming, the quote he's getting is a lot higher than anticipated. So the applicant is requesting relief from that condition, a contribution to the safety fund in lieu of in light of the applicant making these improvements to the basin. The applicant is improving the basin, remodeling the basin for current storm events, and as part of that, dedicating it to the town, which was the intent of the original subdivision, which was never completed. And the applicant would also be making the contribution of close to $45,000 to the stormwater management fee. Our understanding is that that town has already been maintaining the basin as it is, even though it's been on private property. This would clean that up, dedicate it to the town, and the contribution of the $45,000 calculated based on 25 years worth of maintenance fees.
Mr. Porthy, just real quick, so our planner just raised a question, it's a good question. So was this request made in the application itself?
What request?
The request for the amendment?
We requested the extension of the minor subdivision, and in there, I believe we explained that we were trying to get all the outside agency approvals and meet resolution compliance, so not directly. It's not technically a condition like the board imposed, it's just in the review letter.
It might be difficult for us to make that type of assessment without going back through all the plans and the testimony and looking at those requests. We don't have that paperwork. We weren't advised of that. So we could hear that in a year. Mr.
I believe when we submitted the application, we have copies of the review letters and stuff in the application itself. So it's really, the issue being, we granted the subdivision, we had agreed to upgrade the stormwater management system at quite a bit of money, plus pay the $44,000 in the stormwater maintenance fee, and then we didn't realize that the pedestrian fund was going to be $40,000. So the applicant doesn't have to subdivide the property, we just thought it was the better thing to do. It is a developable lot, but we were going to dedicate the 3 acres to the township, upgrade the stormwater maintenance system, pay the maintenance fee, but now putting another $40,000 on top of that just really makes the whole thing not really economically feasible. And so there's been no sidewalk there for over 30 years. The other side of the subdivision has sidewalk, and it was created back in the 80s.
Maybe we can ask our professionals to chime in on this for us, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Regarding the maintenance fund, I'm not really a big fan of the payment and having the town absorb or take over the ownership and maintenance responsibilities. And I would ask, what happens after 25 years? I think that's, now the taxpayers, everybody else is going to pay for that maintenance. So I have a real problem with waiving that requirement. As far as the sidewalk goes.
No, we weren't asking for the $44,000 we're paying. It's all about the sidewalk.
Okay, it's all about, why, instead of paying into the fund, why just not install it? Because I think that unit price would be significantly less than if the town was going to do a project and have to hire a contractor, prevailing wage, all the things that go along with it. That's where the $100 a square yard comes from. I think a private developer could install that at a significantly cheaper price.
I guess because we just didn't believe it made any sense to build a sidewalk on the other side when there is no sidewalk and around a maintenance basin that's going to be owned by the township. I'm not really sure that's where you want to be directing all the pedestrian traffic. It's not there now. It hasn't been there for over 30 years.
But that wasn't discussed at the hearing for the minor subdivision, was it? It was agreed to at the hearing for the minor subdivision.
Yeah, we agreed to the comments in the review letter. We just never got the dollar amount, I guess. And then when we got it during our resolution compliance, it caused the issue.
My question is, isn't this part of the deal that was originally made to accommodate this whole moving the retention basin and fixing
No,
it
it
up?
was just a comment in the review letter that you would contribute to the pedestrian fund, and we agreed. But we never really thought about we didn't realize the fee was $40,000.
Yeah, but isn't this the one that was kind of close to closer to the roadway, so as a concession, we added a sidewalk?
No.
I think we'd have to look at it more carefully before we made any kind of decision on that. So we can't make that decision at this time.
So why don't I recommend this? So based upon my conversations with the administration, they don't necessarily want to see things just dedicated in the way that it has been previously. They want to go through the formal dedication process via application and everything like that. If, just so we're not two ships crossing at night, why don't, if the applicant would agree to making that formal submission, get the town's input as to whether they even want to accept the dedication or not. And if that's the case, then we can kind of have some clairvoyance as to maybe what
Okay,
we-
that wasn't an issue the last time, I guess, is what I'm saying. The only issue we're discussing now was the sidewalk. All that
Well,
other was already agreed
What
to.
I'm saying is that knowing the township's position on that may be able to give some clarity as to what the board wants to do moving forward on that.
Next year.
That may be able to clear up their position on things. Instead of, because I know from my conversations with the administration, they want to see a more kind of formal process taking place with the dedications. So if we know the township's position on it, then the board may have a clearer idea as to whether or not they want to kind of equitably grant this or not. So it may be just better off adjourning this to maybe get some clarity as to everybody's position.
We'll make this decision next year when you return.
Next year? How come it's going to be
Well,
next year?
it's a year, you've asked for a year.
Well, but can you just, well, let's remove the sidewalk from the conversation and just grant us an extension of our approval.
Yeah, we can bifurcate it. I mean, I'm not worried about that. And they also, if they want to come back before us, they don't have to wait until next year. I mean, they can make an
Right,
application and
anytime.
come back. You know, so they are here for a two-part process, really. You know, one is for the time extension, the other is for the removal of the condition.
If I remember correctly, though, there was an exception here because they needed the 300 feet of road frontage. We didn't want parking there, so that's why there was going to be a sidewalk. So I believe we need to review when this application was on there because the sidewalk is there for a reason and
Maybe
it was
it's
a
a
condition.
I think you're confusing this application with something else. This was
No, this
just,
is Pitney.
this is a simple subdivision. There was nothing,
You didn't move the retention basin to enlarge the one piece of property on this one?
to enlarge a piece of property? No. We're making the property
Why
smaller. It's a
why don't
subdivision.
we do this? Just,
We can't, we don't have the paper.
yeah, so instead of covering issues that may or may not be involved in this application, why doesn't the board bifurcate this? Let's rule on the extension, which is just equitable,
Right.
right? It's our equitable right to seek. And then we can, at a later date and time, put the second off to the side, adjourn it, and we'll get a future hearing date after the applicant can seek some kind of input from the township.
That would be good, because then we can look at what we had, the paperwork. It's
Yeah, no,
hard
that
to-
sounds fair.
We see hundreds of these.
No, I understand.
All right, so we'll just,
I'm still wondering, why not just agree to put the sidewalk in? Well, you don't have to pay it into the fund for the whatever dollar amount. You could probably put in the sidewalk for half that amount as a private
Well, he
developer.
always has his option to put the sidewalk in or do the payment in lieu. So we'll just get the extension, then he can decide, look, he may not perfect the subdivision. I don't know. It might have actually become just too cost prohibitive. But at least let's give him the extension, then he can decide what he's gonna do in the meantime.
okay. Mr. Peters, anything from you? Okay. All right. So we're just going to ask for a motion to accept the time extension at this time. Anybody, feel free.
Okay, I'll make the motion that we extend the 1 year, give them the 1 year time extension, but that's all.
Okay. All right, we'll have a roll call on that, please. Second.
Second, Dreamer.
Thank you, Mr. Turner.
Mr. Heller,
Yes.
Mr. Rogers, Mr. Dreamer,
Yes.
Miss Rose,
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan,
Yes.
Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much.
That takes care
Thank
of
you.
it.
Good
Thank
evening.
you. Okay, moving right along. Gentlemen, if you could carry on your conversation outside, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, for the record, Donna Jennings from the law firm of Walentz, Goldman, and Spitzer on behalf of the applicant. As the board is aware, the applicant is here this evening seeking preliminary and final major site plan approval with bulk variances to construct a 3-story, 39,000 square foot professional office building with related site improvements on property located at 180 Jackson Mills Road and identified as Block 4301, Lot 20. The 3-acre property is currently improved with a 1-story residential dwelling and is located in a limited commercial zone. The applicant is requesting 2 bulk variances with respect to maximum impervious coverage and maximum building height. As will be more thoroughly discussed by the applicant's site engineer, the applicant will revise its plan to remove one of the parking spaces nearest the side property line where a variance was called out by the board planner. The applicant is also seeking relief for several design waivers with respect to parking area, curbed radii return, providing parking access along the main circulation drive, minimum width of the landscape parking island, not providing a full landscape buffer along the side property line, and not providing sidewalks along street frontages. As will be testified to by the applicant's planner, the record will show the applicant satisfies the positive and negative criteria to warrant the requested relief. In support of the application, the applicant will call the following witnesses. Ellie Halpert, sitting to my left, will testify as both our site engineer and planner. Mary Davis will be our architect, and John Ray is our traffic engineer. As a matter of record keeping, we are in receipt of several reports. We have the Traffic Safety Unit Review Letter, initially dated February 3rd, 2025, with a further response letter dated March 7th, 2025. The Fire Bureau Review Letter dated November 4th, 2024. The Township Tree Specialist Review Letter dated March 20th, 2025. The Board Planners Review Letter last revised March 18th, 2025. And the Board Engineers Review Letter dated March 21st, 2025. With that, if I could have Mr. Halpert sworn in, we can begin our testimony.
Okay. Sign them in.
All right, Eli. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? All right, please
I
state
do.
your name and spell your last for the record.
Eric Halpert, Halpert, licensed professional engineer and planner in the state of New Jersey. These plans were prepared under my supervision, and I have appeared before this board before.
Welcome back.
Thank
The
you.
board accepts the credentials?
We do.
And I just want to make sure it's clear that you're going to be both the planner and the site engineer this evening.
Yes.
Great.
If you could, Mr. Halpert, describe the site and the surrounding areas, and if you're going to rely on any exhibits, please identify them for the record.
We will be relying on the exhibit set A1 to A4, and the board is looking at exhibit A1, which depicts an aerial of the site. The site is located in the northern section of Jackson Township on the northwesterly side of Jackson Mills Road. It is highlighted over here in the aerial. It is currently developed with a single-family dwelling and other accessory structures and parking areas. It is located in the limited commercial zone, which its border is along Jackson Mills Road. Across the street is not a limited commercial zone. And the applicant is seeking to develop the property with a commercial professional offices, parking area, landscaping, stormwater management, as will be shown in the coming exhibits and in the plan. Could you go, Anthony, to, thank you. Could you zoom in? And a little, could you zoom back out a little bit just to capture the roadway as well? The property, just to discuss, some of the roadway improvements before getting into the property. The property is located on a county road. Jackson Mills Road is a county roadway, and the applicant, as part of this development application, requires approval from the Planning Board, Ocean County Planning Board. The applicant has submitted and has received conditional approval from Ocean County Planning Board for the bifurcated entrance and exits. The Ocean County Planning Board will be requiring a roadway widening larger than is depicted. It will require a widening to provide 23 feet of pavement. Right now, 17-foot pavement width from the center line is shown, and the applicant will be able to comply with that. The applicant seeks, in terms of utilities, to provide a sewer main extension. The applicant has made an application and received approval, preliminary approval from the Jackson Township Municipal Utilities Authority, and has submitted to the board previously the preliminary approval. The applicant recently received as well the tentative approval for a sewer main extension that would be connecting to a manhole located approximately, it would be approximately 700 linear feet of sewer main extension located along Ferenz Road is where the existing manhole is. And this is a general benefit along with the sewer main extension to service this development. The applicant's development standard requirement is to provide laterals to any properties along the new run of sewer main to be able to give the property owners along that run the ability, if they desire, to connect their property to the public sewer. The Jackson Township Municipal Utilities Authority, as part of the tentative approval, asked that instead of an 8-inch pipe, which is all that would be needed technically to service this project, a 12-inch pipe be installed in order to be able to potentially continue that pipe further along Jackson Mills Road for future development to provide more properties with the ability to connect to the public sewer. So those are some of the infrastructure improvements associated with the proposal. Additionally, we'll discuss the stormwater a little bit more, but as part of just to discuss the infrastructure improvements, I'm sure the board members have seen the site. Jackson Mills has an existing drainage easement that is owned by Ocean County along the roadway, and there's a swale, sort of a ditch off the roadway that it terminates at the adjacent property where the pointer is. It terminates at an inlet and then outfalls around 300 feet to the tributary that exists about 400 feet from the property line, the tributary to the Metedeconk, to the south branch of the Metedeconk. And as part of our application, we will close up that ditch, which is in a way a little bit unsafe. We will close up that swale and comply with all the storm management regulations. The county, this was discussed with the county prior to doing that, and the county has since, again, as mentioned earlier, conditionally approved the application. There were some minor drainage technical comments regarding time of concentration, but the county has approved the design, which I believe is a benefit to curb the roadway, close the ditch, and provide better stormwater management. And likely there will be some improvement to the outfall, which is not too far away, as part of the Soil Conservation District approval. That would conclude the general infrastructure improvements along the roadway. There was a comment regarding sidewalk. The plan had not shown sidewalk. There is no sidewalk. However, it certainly is sensible to sidewalk. Somebody has to start with the sidewalk, and the applicant would agree to not request any waiver from providing sidewalk, and the applicant would be agreeable certainly to provide sidewalk, and that will be a condition of any approval for the plans to be revised to show sidewalk, although there is no sidewalk on either end, but it makes sense to begin somewhere. To go through the site, the applicant is seeking to construct a 3-story structure for professional offices. It will require a height, a variance, a 3-story structure spanning a total between the 3 stories of 39,000 square feet of gross floor area. The architect will discuss the floor plans more in detail, but the applicant is seeking to construct a 3-story professional offices. The applicant is seeking to leave some space between the structure and the parking area to provide some outdoor area for the tenants to have lunch. That would be the intent of the pergola. There was a comment regarding describing the use, so just to get right into the use, it's professional offices, and I do believe it would be an accessory use, and it is customary to provide some outdoor eating area for tenants to enjoy during their lunch break. That would be the intent of the pergola. Details would be provided with revised plans, but that is the intent of the pergola, to service the professional office uses. The applicant is is required to provide 195 spaces. The applicant has provided 186 physical spaces, and the applicant is allowed to receive credit for up to 10% of the required parking with EV. The applicant is below that and is providing 9 EV spaces. One of them shall be within the handicapped space as required, and therefore the applicant does not need any parking variance. As mentioned earlier, Anthony, could you zoom out a little bit more? You could go capture the site, and you don't need to capture the roadway right now, just so we could get to the top of the site. A little higher, there's one more row of parking. Thank you. And as mentioned, there is one spot that is within the 20-foot setback to residential use, and more discussion, and I will get into more of the uses of the adjoining properties. But in order to not seek any variance, the applicant shall remove one spot and replace that with an EV credit in order to avoid the 20-foot setback to residential use. The applicant is proposing a circulation. You could zoom out, Anthony, just to capture the whole plan. Thank you.
Mr. Halper, may I ask a question?
Yes.
Since you're going into the circulation. We did not receive the letter from the fire department. I don't know if anybody here got one, but I don't have one.
I have it here.
So has there been any question from them about the circulation? I'm looking at the radius for turning. I hope I didn't step on you, Mr. Trummer.
The fire review was provided. I did not realize that the fire review was not forwarded to the board. It typically is, but we are in receipt of a fire review from November, and The fire official actually dropped it off. This is Mr. O'Brien, and he has some comments regarding certain hydrants, some hydrants that are required, which we will of course put on, but he has no issue with the circulation.
That was my question. Thank
So
you.
he has
Appreciate it.
5 comments, and these will be forwarded to the board. And
Now you can have mine.
Oh, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. I can at least pass it up and down, and we can take a look. Thank you so much. Yeah, we just didn't get it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
The applicant agrees with all the conditions?
the applicant agrees with conditions. They are regarding just fixtures that the fire department requires. And as a matter of fact, on the most recent submission for the tentative approval to the Jackson MUA, the hydrants are there already. But either way, the applicant agrees to the conditions stated in the fire official review letter and will have to resubmit plans to the fire official for approval. There were comments regarding traffic circulation. Our traffic expert will go more, will discuss that in detail. I will just briefly mention the circulation and the site. However, waivers required due to any traffic circulation or any other comments, our traffic expert is here to address, and the traffic safety letter as well. The applicant is proposing 2 one-way major circulation drives, which is permitted per the Ocean County Planning Board, with 2-way drive aisles to access parking, and a circulation plan. The fire circulation plan depicts the ability for the fire truck to circulate to the site, and again, it is conditioned on the fire official approval. The applicant generally has 10-foot wide island widths. There are certain islands where, in order to maintain the parking, the applicant would indeed seek the waiver to go to 8 feet, although in general it is 10 feet. I believe it is acceptable to, for the board, the applicant would be seeking a waiver from not providing at all islands the full 10-foot width island. And we'll go through the landscaping plan that shows a robust landscaping package and landscaping along the buffers and within the islands sufficient, except for the fact that not every island is 10-foot wide.
Mr. Tremor, when you're finished with that, send it back this way, please.
I have a second one also. Should I have a second one also if.
That's all right. We just have one more.
Okay. I had a question about the fire hydrants. Okay. The fire hydrants, I brought the letter, along with this letter, an image that the fire official took of the plan marking up the location of the hydrants. Accompanied this, I do not have it here with me, but the location of the hydrants he pointed to at this island and at this island. And again, the fire official will have to approve, but he did supply a markup of our site plan of where he wants fire department connections and where he would like the fire hydrants, and the applicant will do that.
Where is your remote fire department connection?
It would be over here, I believe, is where he wanted it.
He doesn't want it away from the building?
He is, the fire official is showing the fire department connection on the building.
Yeah, because I thought they had changed their position where they wanted it separated from the building, so.
The applicant would be willing to provide whatever the fire official would request. There's different fire officials, I am aware. There's District 3 typically will request the fire department connection to be remote. This is District 4, and he has not requested it, but the applicant can do that.
No, I absolutely get that. They have 3 different officials, 3 different ways of looking at things. It gets very confusing. I mean, as general principle, If your first hydrant is on that island and the second one is there, you have a fire truck hooked up to each one. We kind of clogged our roadway getting in. So it doesn't make sense to me where, in my mind, the fire department connection would be better off in that island in the back with the hydrant nearby, and this way it gives you access, gets people out of there. So I think that needs to be looked at, but that's a,
I think to be safe, the applicant would agree to discuss that with the fire official and do what the fire official would want.
The fire official seems pretty clear here on his proposed where he wants the hydrant to be, not more than 100 feet from remote fire department connection, and a second hydrant placed in the front near the EV parking area. So whatever the fire department wants is what the fire department gets.
Okay. We will ask. We will ask.
yeah. He's young, so we got to work on him a little bit.
Anthony, could you go to the next sheet? Okay. This sheet is a color rendering of the submitted landscaping plan, which depicts buffering along the sides. There will be further, I will discuss further proofs for reasons for design waiver, but just the layout provides double row along each side, and there is landscape buffering within the islands and along the roadway frontage, and the applicant will work with the township forester, does work with the township forester, with Shari, to provide a plan to comply with requirements of the of all landscape comments.
I did see there are a number of revisions that are requested here.
Yes.
From the forester,
Yes.
and you have those and agree to.
Yes. Yes, the applicant agrees.
There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 revisions.
Yes, the applicant, yes, this was reviewed, and the applicant is able to comply with the revisions indicated in the landscape, in the tree specialist letter, yes.
Thank
The
you.
only, dated March 20th, the only waiver that is requested regarding the landscaping is the islands. Besides, before we get into the side buffering, just within the parking area, the islands, not every island will be 10 feet.
Some will be 8.
Some will be 8, but we will discuss shortly the buffering along the property lines. Anthony, are you able to bring up the actual civil plan, a different file, 180 Jacksonville civil plan? Thank you, and could you go to the next sheet? This is, thank you, Anthony, and just to zoom out, this is good, thank you. This is the grading drainage utility plan, just depicting the stormwater management. The applicant is complying with the stormwater management regulations. It's providing a stormwater basin, a surface infiltration basin, a subsurface, and as mentioned earlier, the applicant is able to remove the swale, which is a conveyance feature, remove the swale, make that area flat, curb it, and as mentioned earlier, will provide sidewalk as well, and convey the runoff to the existing county infrastructure with an outfall not too far away.
Just one question. You did say earlier that the county has stated that they are going to want the road widened more than shown, that's
Yes.
depicted here, correct? Will that interfere in any way with your drainage plans or the basin?
That will not. The basin is 25 feet from the county desired row, and the county widening is within their desired row. And I'm sorry, there will be some more pavement added because it's pavement widening, and the required storage the number will go up a little bit, but it will not affect, in general, it will not affect the stormwater management facilities because it is within the county row. Our facilities are out of the county row, except for the pipe along the roadway that the county always desires whenever there's a roadway widening.
Okay, thank you.
I will go through some of the comments and get to the variances that the applicant seeks.
One of the comments was to describe the hours of operation.
Okay. This is, I'm sorry. Regarding the statement of operations, this is a development for professional offices. The tenants are not known right now. This is general professional offices. It is not medical. The hours of operation would be expected to be typical 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. The applicant is seeking to divide the building into, to provide 9 tenants. The applicant would not expect more than 120 employees for all of the tenants. The parking that is provided is as per the ordinance, which, according to the statement of operations, would be greater than the number of employees, but the requirement is provided. Deliveries would be expected, typical office deliveries, box truck during normal business hours. To discuss a comment, there is an area for refuse collection in the rear of the property. There was a comment that it is approximately 100 feet from the building. The applicant is comfortable keeping it away from the building as opposed to closer because of it is more pleasant farther away, even though it's 100 feet, not 50 feet, but the applicant is comfortable keeping the refuse in that area. The applicant would expect, just based on typical usage, the two of the refuse enclosure depicts is 27 feet wide, which can contain 3 dumpsters. It would be expected 2 of the dumpsters would be for regular waste, 1 would be for recyclables. And again, the tenants are not known, but just based on the square footage, it would be expected that twice weekly pickup would be sufficient. That number could go down, it could go higher, up to 5 days a week as needed. But from this based on the square footage and the 2 regular waste dumpsters and 1 recyclable, it would be anticipated 2 times a week should be sufficient.
Does the tenant intend to restrict the parking based upon the lease that they have with the tenant? Just to make sure that somebody doesn't come in and have 42 employees and then offsets the other 8 tenancies? You sure I'm going with that?
Yeah, he would agree to that as a condition of approval.
Okay.
To go through some of the comments, some were alluded to regarding signs. The limited commercial zone does not provide a permitted, does not appear to provide a permitted, a ground-mounted sign as a permitted use. In as much as this is for professional offices, not for retail, the applicant is not looking to put up a structure that needs to draw people that aren't familiar with the site. The applicant did not feel the need to request any variance relief to provide a ground-mounted sign. The applicant would be seeking, although it's not shown on the plan, to provide a wall sign, and because no variance has been requested, the applicant will need to comply with the ordinance of maximum 80 square feet.
The only thing I'm concerned about when I look at this is that it's quite a way, quite a depth. And I'm we've been talking about making sure that the fire department knows addresses. So an address, maybe a small monument with an address, because this is set so far back off the road.
It is,
I'm concerned
yes.
it won't be seen.
If the board wishes for the applicant to
Gentlemen,
provide, the applicant.
What do you think, Mr. Peters? A small monument sign with just the number, just the street number. I'm just concerned that since it's set back so far, it won't be visible. Is that okay?
But certainly if the board feels from a safety perspective, you want to have something out front that just has the three-digit street address on it,
Right.
you may even be able to call that a directional sign. But if you want to give them the relief so that when they go and get it, the zoning officer doesn't have a problem with it.
Then Mr. Proporo won't ask you why. Because I just think if somebody's driving down the road looking at numbers, and there are they're going to be difficult, no numbers over here and no numbers over here, might be helpful for safety's sake.
Okay, so why don't, for the record, you tell us what square footage sign you think would be appropriate, so we know what to go in for?
Mr. Peters, can you give me some guidance there? What size do you think?
Okay.
Okay, no greater than 32 square feet.
Good,
The applicant would agree to that.
thank you.
And can it be lighted? I was just going to say that. Why not?
I love the lighted numbers, because as a responder, it just,
Sure.
Yeah, yes, if that is what the board,
Thank
yes.
Good. It does make it easier for the fire department to see lighted numbers.
Yes.
Understood.
And the police department, so
Right.
Makes sense.
safety.
The limited commercial zoning ordinance is an animas. It does not have that wall-mounted sign that the neighborhood commercial and highway commercial has.
Ground mounted.
The ground mount, I'm
Doesn't
sorry,
allow
the
wall.
ground-mounted
Right.
sign. But
Good.
the applicant is certainly willing to provide it.
Very good, thank you. Speaking of signs, we have been requesting of late, and if I could ask you to pick up this, we're asking that the applicants put a coming soon sign once the property is cleared, as a courtesy to the residents of Jackson. People are constantly asking us, what's going up on the corner of so-and-so and such and such? What's going here, what's going there? So we would like a sign up during construction, just saying, with the color rendering, just so that the residents know what is being built on that location.
Sure, that's not a problem. Is there a specific size of that
Yes,
sign as
and
well?
It's on the,
Okay?
4 by 8.
The
Right.
applicant would do that as well.
with color rendering.
With
color.
color rendering a temporary sign during construction.
During construction, has to
Okay.
be removed immediately after CO.
Okay. Yes.
We see that as a win-win for the community and also for the property owner.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Going through some of the comments from the board planner letter. So the traffic circulation, our traffic expert will go through some of the comments. The applicant will provide details as needed. Roadway improvements were discussed, and the traffic expert will go through those comments in detail. Landscaping.
Mr. Halpert, I hate to butt in, and I normally wait until we're done, but since you started going through comments, as you talked about details, one of the details we asked for was for the EV-ready space. Our concern is that where you have the EV-ready space is on what we'll call a through space. There's another parking space next to it or through it. When you put the EV equipment up, you don't have the correct dimensions anymore because the equipment takes up a certain distance. And then if you're going to have cars parking up against it, you need protection from it. So either the EV parking spaces need to be relocated to a curbed area, like where the handicap parking is or some other portion of the site, when you have them back-to-back with other parking spaces, they can't just be 18-foot deep each. They have to be someplace where you can put the equipment behind the curb line, because generally it takes up, just like you would think,
Yes.
an air pump at a gas station or a vacuum space, it takes up 2.5 or 3 feet beyond that. So where they are now, I don't think works. I think they need to be relocated. So I apologize for interrupting your train of thought, but I think it's important to understand that the EV parking spaces need to be relocated.
Understood, and the applicant will relocate in order to provide
To
the
make
full
it easy.
18 feet.
To make it easy for you, put that on your list for the fire official, because they've all been putting them in the corner by themselves, like Mr. Peters had just said, so I'm sure he will help you with that.
I missed that. I'm sorry, I missed that.
Well, and that also
Okay.
goes in hand with what I said with the hydrant. The hydrant needs to be within 100 feet. Like where it is now, it's more than 100 feet away, so both those changes will probably correlate together.
We're going to make sure we will comply and suggest and make sure it works as per the professionals.
The very back of the lot has numerous parking spaces. That might be the ideal location, since
There-
you do have there's a sightly issue there.
There is area in the rear.
Right,
There's-
in the rear, there's-
Could you pull, Anthony, could you go to the previous sheet number 3?
Or A2, either one.
One bit, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one.
There's areas over here, this is curb, there's areas here, and the applicant will make sure to find a curbed area as per the board planner's suggestion to provide the required EV, which right now we have, the plan shows 9, but we had mentioned earlier we are taking away 1 spot, so we need to provide 10 EV spaces.
And those angular spots to the left might be the ideal.
Yes,
because-
I mentioned, yes.
Because they're close to the electric, however, they're not close to the building.
Right.
So that might be the ideal location.
Yes, and we will work with the fire official as well. Yes. Landscaping, we mentioned. We'll get into the variances and the buffers shortly, just to group it all together. Regarding lighting, the applicant will comply with the ordinance and make sure to provide 0.5 throughout the parking area. Storage of solid waste and recyclables was discussed. Utilities was discussed, and the applicant had provided, as part of the requirement, a environmental impact statement was provided. I worked with Kristen Wildman from Du Bois. She provided the environmental impact statement, and the environmental impact statement indicates there are no environmental sensitive areas, there's no wetlands, there's no flood hazard areas, and there has been no comments received from the Environmental Commission, although there have been no comments on any jobs from the Environmental Commission.
True.
To go through the board engineer letter, again, the traffic expert will discuss any comments regarding the Traffic Safety Bureau. Regarding the curb radii, the applicant will make sure that the curb radii are 5 feet, except at those areas where the islands are going to be 8 feet, they'll be slightly less. Grading and drainage was discussed. The plan in general, the lot is generally flat. The ditch and the swale is being removed, but instead of the swale, there is going to be a surface infiltration basin. The applicant does not anticipate exceeding 1,000 cubic yards of soil export, and does not anticipating requiring to bring in fill, as the soil being removed on site will be sufficient to fill in the ditch. The applicant is seeking the two variances and is also seeking, Anthony, could you go back to Exhibit A1 to A4 to the first sheet? So this is the aerial depicting the site, the property to the west and to the east. The applicant would not want to, does not have any direct knowledge regarding the uses. The aerial shows perhaps some certain commercial activities taking place on one of the properties, but the applicant agrees it would be considered a design waiver to provide only the 14.5 feet of landscape buffering that the applicant is providing instead of the 25 feet that would be required because of the square footage of the building. As mentioned earlier, the drive aisle is 14.5 feet to the property line. There was one spot that was 17 feet away from the property line. That spot is being removed. And so therefore, the applicant believes that a design waiver is required from providing deficient buffering. However, regarding the design waiver, I believe that that would be sufficient in this instance. There are certain commercial activities, but more important, the applicant is providing double row buffering, a robust landscape package, and I believe a design waiver would be justified over here from providing the full 25 feet.
Do you think, because one never knows what's going to happen in the future, do you think maybe a berm would be possible? Maybe something that slopes so that
Could you go to the
whoever-
landscape plan, Anthony? That would be
That's A3.
that would be A3 over here.
Or maybe fencing over, because if you're looking for a waiver on property that may be developed in the future, we want to make sure to protect those future developments as well.
Yes. So the applicant, so in terms of a berm, I don't know that there's
Or a fence.
a fence. The applicant would be agreeable to put up a fence as a condition of the board granting the approval. What size fence? A 6-foot high fence?
How about 4? Just to give the property owners next door enough separation for future development. Thoughts? Yeah.
If that, yes, the applicant would agree to provide a fence.
6 foot, 4 foot?
I think 6 foot would be better, and vinyl, of course.
Solid vinyl.
Solid vinyl.
Yeah, that would be good, because you might not want to see the neighbor's property either, which
They
is.
might,
Yeah,
right.
It's a double-edged
It's,
sword.
yeah, right. So to protect future development and your own site.
Applicant agrees.
Thank you.
Madam Chair? Madam Chair? Just want to chime in, I apologize for interrupting. The landscaping to the, I'll say to the right of the site, are those actual trees that were located in the field? Or is that just a represent, or?
Those trees, I'm sorry, are just representative. Those were not located. We did locate trees on the property.
Right, okay. It just seems that, based on that, there's plenty of trees that,
It's not.
that there's, significant buffering between the two, but I don't really know if that's what's in the field. Same thing with the, to the rear of the property.
The aerial would depict, the applicant, those are, to be clear, those were not field located. Those are part of the landscape rendering. The aerial does show some trees, but the applicant either way is willing to put up a fence. But Anthony, could you go to the aerial? The aerial does show some of the land
And according to
cover.
to what we have here from the forester, that seems to suggest the same thing. What we have from the forester seems to say there's enough trees being proposed, but there should be a shift. The forester's letter, March 20th.
The survey does show trees along the property line in existing conditions. Anthony, could you pull up the again, the site plan, not this file, the other file? And we can look at the second sheet of the other file we had up. Sheet number 2, the previous sheets. So these are along the property line. The survey was not required to show more, so this is,
I was there, and it seems to me that there are some hardwoods and pines, but a lot of scrub. So much of that is sparsely arbored. Yeah.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I don't mean to testify for the applicant, so I'll ask him some questions. How deep's the property generally?
the general depth of the property is 435 feet.
So, and it's what, 300 feet wide?
Yes.
So you've got
Plenty of
800, 1,100, maybe 1,000 foot of perimeter to landscape. And it appears from your plans that you're proposing just under 200 evergreens in those areas, right?
Yes.
So he's got an evergreen every 5, 6 feet.
Right.
So you double stagger them. Just wanted him to explain sort of the intensity of the proposed landscaping plan and the idea that when you have enough trees to play with, the landscape architect or certified tree expert can supplement what's good out there with brand-new trees, and we seem to be getting, it appears like just under 200 evergreen trees
Okay.
that appear to be planted only along the perimeter of the property.
Plus the fence. We're good.
Okay, so therefore, is the board recommending the fence? The applicant did clarify that to the left, there is an existing berm.
Oh, good. Can't be seen from the road.
Right. Regarding, so the applicant is seeking 2 variances. The applicant is seeking a variance is violating the ordinance requirement of 35 feet height and the impervious coverage. The applicant would be seeking for this what is known as a flexible variance, a C2 variance, and the proofs that are needed to be provided for the C2 variance is to demonstrate that the variances which are sought for this property will promote one or more purposes of the municipal land use law, and the applicant has to as well demonstrate that he satisfies the negative criteria. So regarding the height of the structure, the applicant is seeking a height variance by providing the floor area over 3 stories. The applicant is able to condense the footprint and have the floor area provided in a more condensed footprint, which does provide a more striking architectural look. And more important, it also provides some more area adjacent to the building, where, as mentioned earlier, the applicant can provide some open area for use for the tenants. And this is accomplished because the floor area is spread over the 3 stories as opposed to 2 stories. And for a 3-story structure, the applicant would require the height variance in order to have the proper height.
And how high is the building?
The applicant is seeking a height variance of just under 3.5 feet, is seeking a building that will be just under 38.5 feet. I did check also, I did have a quick 1-minute conversation with the fire official, and I asked him, and he is willing, he would be able to provide in writing if needed. I checked with the fire official if there was any issue in terms of fire with the extra height, in terms of any type of truck, and he indicated there is no issue. And if the board, and he would be willing to put that in writing if the board would require.
I believe we have other buildings now in town that are of that height.
Yes.
Yeah, for reference, that company has a 100-foot aerial ladder, so it's more than adequate.
So the applicant, applicant is therefore seeking the height variance in order, as mentioned, in order to provide the floor area spanned over 3 stories. The applicant further is seeking the impervious coverage variance. The parking provided does exceed, the parking area with the building does exceed the impervious coverage requirement, but at the same time, the distribution of the impervious coverage with the robust landscaping that is not simply pervious, but it's trees and evergreens that absorb runoff, I believe is a good distribution of the impervious. And to discuss the exact proofs and which purposes are being promoted by this development, I believe that by the board granting these variances, we can say that it is promoting the first purpose of zoning, encouraging municipal action to guide appropriate use or development of all lands in the state in a manner which will promote the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. As mentioned, C, it provides adequate light, air, and open space. As mentioned, this development is providing the floor space, open space, buffering. I, promotes a desirable visual environment through creative development techniques and good civic design and arrangement.
And solar, ready.
Solar ready. The architect is here and will provide testimony and indicate that the applicant is willing to make it solar ready. In order to satisfy the requirement for variance relief pursuant to this C2, it has to be demonstrated that it advances and that the benefits outweigh any detriment. As mentioned, the applicant is providing a robust landscaping package, stormwater, and the detriment is de minimis. This is a 3.5 foot, an extra 3.5, little less than 3.5 feet in height. It is set back considerably from the property line and from the roadway and from the side property lines, and I believe that the benefits substantially outweigh any detriment. In order for the board to grant the relief under C2, it has to be demonstrated, it has to meet the criteria of the negative criteria and demonstrate that it does not substantially impair the intent and purpose of the zone plan and that there is no substantial detriment to the public good. This is a permitted use in the zone. It does not impair the intent, and as mentioned earlier, there is no substantial detriment to the public good, and therefore I believe the board is justified in granting the variances and design waivers requested.
And just to add, just to add to that, one of the reasons why you're seeking the impervious coverage, correct me if I'm wrong, is the fact that we requested that the building have 360-degree access for fire purposes, right?
Yes.
So that would go to the public safety portion of the MLU public purposes.
Yes.
Mr. Peters, have your questions all been answered? All your comments?
Sure if Ms. Jennings is done with the witness, so I'll wait until she tells me she's done with the witness.
My direct testimony is finished.
It's not my report, it's his testimony, so we'll just go right to the variances. The proof for a C2 is that the benefits of the deviation substantially outweigh any detriment. And respectfully, I've heard the words from the ordinance or the land use law read into the record. But I'm not sure I've heard, there's general in the area, zones that permit 60 or 70% impervious coverage. without any problems. We didn't even talk about what the relief is. It's not, impervious coverage permitted in this zone is 60%. That's pretty healthy. It's not 60.1%, it's 68.7%. It's a 15% increase. If you talk about that from a density perspective, so asking for 15% more, I guess my only question is there anything on this site that stops you from complying with the ordinance requirements that you're seeking relief from?
The applicant would have the ability to provide some pervious paving in order to supply the needed parking and comply with the ordinance requirement of 60% impervious coverage. Pervious parking can have issues, and I believe that the impervious parking provided combined with the landscaping is a good use of the land, but the applicant would be willing to provide pervious parking if needed.
Mr. Halper, could you have a smaller yield on the site and less impervious surface and meet the variance and get rid of the variance relief? Is there anything from this design that stops you from complying?
If the applicant would be providing a smaller yield, then the impervious coverage relief would not be needed.
So the applicant certainly, within his rights to ask for a variance, he has to give the proofs. The board has to agree with the proofs. My concern simply is, when it came to impervious coverage, the testimony was there was a distribution of impervious, and that by providing more landscaping, all those things are required. So while I understand that we may have met, while there was testimony that the applicant believes they meet the purposes of zoning, I think the board members need to think long and hard about, we're going from 60% to 68.7%, so we can have a bigger building and more parking spaces. Is it a good rateable? Is that the reason to grant a bulk variance? This is by their own testimony, a flat rectangular site that they're not providing a sufficient buffer for. They're asking relief from. They're not providing the aisle width, the parking island width, or the radiuses. So if you had a conforming application, the building would be smaller, and there'd be fewer parking spaces. I don't think that's news to anybody who's here. They're certainly entitled to request relief. The board should focus on what Mr. Halpert testified to, that for a C2, they have to show that it advances one of the purposes of the municipal land use law, and I would believe he recited 3 of them, and that the benefits of the deviation would substantially outweigh any detriment. That's all I have from a planning perspective. I did have a question for Mr. Halpert. During your testimony, you said Ocean County permitted the one-way drives. Did you mean to say that they're permitting the one-way entrance and exit configuration? Because the county doesn't have anything to do with whether or not there's one-way drives on a site in Jackson Township, correct?
Correct. My intent was permitted the 2 openings along the roadway. That was the intent.
Thank you. That's all I have for Mr. Halpert at this point.
And just to follow up on Ernie's comments, if the islands, all the internal islands were 10 feet, that would reduce the variance for the impervious.
Correct, by a small amount, yes.
But if you did, you would also reduce the parking,
Yes.
which kind of tells me that maybe there's just too much.
Strictly in terms of the impervious coverage relief, the applicant would be able to provide pervious parking if the board would not want to grant that relief. But in terms of the islands, if the islands would be wider, then yes, some more parking would be eliminated. And the amount of parking that would be eliminated would not be greater than any EVs that can be replaced with the parking that would be eliminated, strictly in terms of the islands.
my kind of knee jerk when I see islands less than 10 feet, it speaks more to, we need the parking, so we're going to make the island smaller. Kind of goes to, well, maybe there's just too much building. Thank you.
So if this were a two-story building, we wouldn't need the height variance. We wouldn't need the impervious coverage variance because we could reduce the parking. Does that make sense? Because we're already asking for a 3.5-foot variance for height.
Well, the height really is more related to the architectural, and we get the architect up, makes it a more aesthetically pleasing building, et cetera. We can eliminate the maximum impervious coverage by doing pervious parking. It's not going to change anything. So we'll eliminate that variance request, not a problem. But with the architectural, it is de minimis, and you have to show that there's a substantial detriment to the zone plan and the master plan. And this is a building that's set back significantly far from the road. I don't think anybody driving by is going to see that the building is 3.4 feet higher than required in the ordinance.
At some point, we'll get that testimony from a witness. I appreciate her summation, but at some point, we have to get that testimony from a witness.
All right.
What is the reduction in parking hardship you would have if you meet the 60%?
There'll be no reduction in parking spaces, you're just changing the parking to pervious as opposed to impervious.
Right, so there'd be no exact reduction?
The applicant would be able to provide the parking required through pervious parking. Not all of the parking would need to be pervious. There is sufficient parking that can be replaced, that is presently impervious, that can be replaced as pervious, that would bring the impervious coverage to below 60. The applicant is able to do that.
Which would probably be at the rear.
It would be along curbs, is a good place to put the impervious, the pervious parking, and there's sufficient parking to be replaced and swapped and have the impervious pavement replaced with pervious pavement.
So then we're down to the
Only the height variance.
the height. And the 10 feet, we'd keep 10 feet, there wouldn't be any 8-foot medians?
The applicant could keep 10 feet and add EVs.
So the only thing we'd be looking at is the height.
Do you want to put any more testimony in the record regarding that, or?
I think I'll have the architect explain the
He can always come back up
architecture
after
features.
he hears her testimony.
He won't leave.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Before we leave the impervious coverage calculation, if the applicant's going to, instead of reduce the intensity of the development, use pervious pavement, there has to be a deed restriction that says it will be pervious pavement. Or 5 years from now, when pervious pavement, which is harder to maintain and more expensive to install and maintain, you're going to get a contractor out there who's going to pave it.
So that would
Okay.
have to run with the property, no matter who owns it.
Well, I would say that it would be a condition of the board's approval, but not a deed restriction, because if the use changes in the future, or there's a change in the township's impervious coverage issue, the person would have to go to court to have that condition lifted. That's pretty onerous on the property owner.
Yeah.
You're relying on the standard to get the yield.
Right, but we would also have an approval, and if we violated our conditions of our approval, that's part of the...
So what would happen, so in this situation, what would happen is that if we require it be put in the chain of title through the deed, the only way to remove that is basically to, it wouldn't be here, it would be in Superior Court. So you have to file a motion to remove it as a matter of equity, right? If we put it in as a condition of approval, it still kind of quasi-runs with the land because it's in the resolution itself, which a zoning officer can enforce. There's two different things that get to the same place, but there's two different avenues to remove it. One would be, amendment approval, which we had one prior. Somebody wants to remove it from the resolution, then we come in, seek an application. But if we put it within If we request it, we put it within the deed itself, then they have to go to Superior Court to remove that. So that's, I'm going to leave that up to the discretion of the board as to which one they want to require, if that's the avenue that we're going down.
To help the board understand the scope of the pervious part, how many spaces would you estimate that would be?
What's allowable, which is, then they don't need a variance.
Approximately 70 spaces. 70.
70?
70. That would provide, that would remove approximately, the applicant is approximately 8%, 8.7% over on the impervious coverage, and by replacing 70 spaces, it would bring it under the 60%.
That's half the spaces?
That's less than half, that's
A third?
37% of the spaces.
So that's everything back here. Yeah, I agree. My concern is, what's going to happen in the future if someone else purchases this property and they come in and just pave it all. Has to be a consideration. Because are being asked to accept a building that's a lot of building on that piece of property. Attractive a building as it is. So that, I think we'll be thinking about that while we're listening to the architect. Thank you, Mr. Halpern. Maybe we'll take 10 minutes.
Okay.
We'll take a 10-minute break. It'll give us time to do some thinking and consideration. A 10-minute break, please, Anthony. Any thoughts on your end?
Sure, I'm going to have Mr. Halpert explain. We've discussed with the client.
The applicant, we discussed with the applicant would seek to reduce the gross floor area in a way that there would be no impervious coverage variance relief sought in the following manner, reducing it by 6,000 square feet. That reduces the parking requirement by to 165 parking is the parking requirement. The applicant would provide 16 EV parking spaces, which is the 10%. That would equal to a reduction of the, from the current plan of 36 physical spaces, which is about half of what I had mentioned previously, half of the 70 that we are over, and the remaining will be permeable pavers. So that's what the applicant would be seeking to propose in order to eliminate the impervious coverage variance relief.
So that would be 6,000 square feet, make the building
The building will
6,000
be
square feet smaller, and
Yes.
most likely that would be off, let's say, if I'm looking at the building square on, that far right end would be moved in.
The architect will get into approximately 2,000 square feet per floor. The architect could point to, but this is just the general contour of what the applicant would be seeking to.
And that's certainly, we like the look of the building. You know, it's a very attractive building. We don't have any problem. It's just too much building. So that would probably please the people on this board. Anybody have comments on that? Thoughts? And professionals?
10-foot islands. Yes.
All right. And we were discussing the islands, and that's a safety feature too, because it gives
It is.
pedestrians a little, and architecturally attractive, and gives some greenery.
Yes.
Okay. All right. That sounds very good to us. And we'll hear from the architect now?
Yes.
I guess I'm getting older because they're getting younger.
Please raise your right hand. You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. Please state your name and spell your last for the record.
Miriam Davis, Davis. Licensed architect in the state of New Jersey. I'm the project architect on this project from Gutman Architecture. And these drawings were prepared under my supervision.
Board acceptor qualifications?
We're pleased to have you. Welcome.
Thank you. If you could, Ms. Davis, for the board, just please pull up your plans, and if you could go through your floor plans and your elevations for the benefit of the board.
Sure. Could we pull up the architectural plans that were submitted?
Probably A2. A2 through A4.
I believe it's a separate PDF.
Anthony, I think it's A2 through A4?
It's a separate file.
Yeah, separate.
Yeah, it starts out with CS1.
Yes, that's it.
Well, I think we also have the plans besides for the rendering. Yep.
It's on the rendering. There we go.
Okay, so some general project information. The project is a new construction, 3-story slab-on-grade office building. The total gross floor area, original gross floor area was 39,000 square feet. The first floor has a gross floor area of 13,007 square feet. The second floor gross floor area is 12,554 square feet. and the third floor gross floor area is 13,439 square feet. The building contains 9 suites ranging from 2,500 to 4,700 square feet. If we could move to the floor plan sheet, I believe it's the next sheet. That's just the foundation plan, slab on grade. One of the comments were regarding a basement, which there's no basement, it's a slab on grade building. Okay, so this is the ground floor plan. We have 2 entrances, one from the front and rear of the building, from parking in the front and the rear. There's also an emergency exit located on the right side of the building. We come into a single-story vestibule that leads us into the double-height lobby. There are 3 office suites on this floor, as well as public bathrooms, mechanical and electrical rooms, and an elevator that connects us to all 3 stories. If we move on to the next sheet, the second floor plan. So we have the double height lobby from the first floor, 3 more office suites that each have a private balcony. We have, again, public bathrooms, some storage spaces. Moving on to the next sheet, the third floor. 3 office suites, public bathrooms, and each suite has its own private balcony. The next sheet is just the roof plan, flat roof, showing proposed mechanical unit locations as well as roof drains in the center of the roof. Moving to the elevations. So we could bring up the Exhibit A4, which is the rendering. Will show us a better idea of what the building looks like. Or you could go to the cover sheet also, shows the rendering, but I believe it was submitted separately, okay. So as mentioned, the proposed building height is 38'5" and 7/8". The applicant is seeking a height variance, which we believe contributed to the overall aesthetic of the building, provided a nice exterior. As was mentioned before, the applicant is proposing a Class A office building, and we felt the height variance would increase the aesthetics and provide an overall nicer building as opposed to the two-story building. And in order to maintain the ceiling height that would be satisfactory in a Class A office building, the height variance would allow us to maintain the 3 feet between floors for the structural and mechanical system and allow us to have a ceiling height that would be satisfactory for a Class A office building.
That's a 12-foot ceiling? 12-foot height? How high are
Well,
those?
the actual ceiling height would be about 9.5 feet,
Okay.
and then the structural and
3
mechanical
feet
systems,
for
3
structure.
feet, correct. In terms of materials, we're proposing 2 different colors, 2 different shades of gray of ACM panels with non-combustible wood-like siding as accent materials. We also have in the front where we have the single-story vestibule that's clad in an aluminum finish at the roof. The ACM panels were chosen because of their durability, weather resistance, and low maintenance. Some general code information about the building. The proposed building will be construction type 2B, which is an unprotected steel building. A sprinkler system is not required per the building code. However, a fire alarm system will be provided throughout the building. There is an elevator that connects all 3 stories, and there are a minimum of 2 means of egress at each level that lead straight outside. As mentioned by Mr. Halpert, the building will be designed to be solar-ready, as requested by the board. And the building signage is not shown on the plan, but it will comply with the building ordinance of the max of 80 square feet.
Any questions from the board?
Yes, where will the 2,000 square feet on each floor be taken off?
So essentially, we would be taking in, again, we would work with Mr. Halpert to figure out the exact site implications, but we would basically be pulling in the building on either side to reduce the square footage per floor.
But in general, all of the amenities that we're seeing here would still be included?
Correct, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you, Madam
Peters.
Chair. Ms. Davis, thanks for your testimony. The only thing I didn't hear you testify to that's on the plan, would you describe the use of a parapet in this design, please?
Yes, we do have a parapet on the building, typical parapet height of 3 feet, which is, according to the ordinance, not included in the overall building height.
Well, that's fair enough, but if you're testifying about what the building height's going to be, from when a layperson stands outside, it's going to be 38.5 feet to the underside of the roof and 3 more feet for the parapet, correct?
Correct. The parapet is not required per building code. It's provided as a safety measure typically.
And it is acceptable. However, it's on your plans, and I want to make sure the board
Correct.
members understand that the applicant's asking for the 3.5-foot height variance, and they're taking advantage of the 3-foot permitted parapet.
Correct.
And if I'm looking at that building correctly, there's a little larger piece of the parapet in the middle.
There is, as an architectural feature, we do have that the center portion over the double height lobby does, I don't have an exact dimension, but it does come up a bit from.
Maybe 6 inches?
Just a
6,
bit,
8?
just for, I mean, I would say more like a foot, it looks like.
For
from-
aesthetics.
But yeah, just for aesthetic purposes.
It's a beautiful building.
Thank you.
Truly, it's a beautiful building. And we're delighted that the quality and beauty of the buildings, it's important to the community. So we thank you for that.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, my last comment or question, it may be to Ms. Jennings. The applicant understands that at the building height of 38 feet 5 7/8 inches, that should they go over the height of 38 foot 6 inches, they would require a D6 height variance, which can only be granted by the Zoning Board of Adjustment, not this board, and it can't be a field change.
Correct.
Thank you. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Anyone here on the board? Any comments, questions for this young lady?
Well, just one comment. It is a very beautiful building, and we want to thank you for working with us.
Thank you.
Mr. Rogers, anything? Okay, we could go on to safety, traffic. Oh,
Sorry, I'm not sure if this is for the architect, but maybe more for Mr. Halpert or combined. We spoke about the parking, and I'm actually going to take a page from Mr. Riker here, who is not here at the moment. He had suggested, and I think the calculation based on the parking was based on the entire square footage of each floor. But if you can actually look at the usable square footage, and that goes for every suite, I calculated it, excluding the openings and stairwells, etc. My number comes out to 152 parking spaces without the electric parking. So, just something that I've heard in the past here on the board.
Mr. Halper could testify to this, but I do believe the parking goes by gross floor area, and the ordinance doesn't
That's the
have any
question.
exceptions for
Usable
stairwells.
versus stairwell.
That would be net floor area, which, different calculation.
So it does go based on net.
It does include the entire floor
Yeah,
area.
it'd be the entire,
good. Good question. Good question. All right. We'll move on. Thank you so much.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to call up Mr. Ray on traffic.
Swear him in, you should have a permanent, you should have a permanent pass on swearing in, Mr. Ray.
I'm going to use that.
you just have a continuing,
I always have a problem with microphones. I don't know what.
do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, your name for the record.
John Ray, R-E-A,
Does the board accept his credentials?
Yes, we do. Welcome back.
only as a traffic engineer.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. Your office has had an opportunity to prepare a traffic impact analysis for this site,
Yes, we did.
and if you could just describe your findings, please.
Okay, well, the traffic study was based on the 39,000 square foot office building. It sounds as though that may be reduced somewhat from what I've heard here this evening. So I will testify as to our findings for the 39,000 square foot office building. We did our typical full traffic impact study. Jackson Mills Road is a county road, so the county is going to be reviewing the traffic study as well. So we did our traffic counts at the intersection of Jackson Mills Road and East Commodore, the signalized intersection just to the northeast of us. And that's how we arrived at the peak hour traffic volumes passing the site frontage on Jackson Mills Road. We projected traffic volumes to a design year of 2034 in accordance with the Ocean County Planning Board protocol. That's what they require of all applicants. and we did our level of service analysis for the site driveways based on that 39,000 square feet, and we're looking at approximately 60 peak hour traffic movements entering and exiting for a building of that size. Our findings were that the site exit to Jackson Mills Road would operate at a B level of service during both the morning and afternoon peak hours for the 2034 design year, and the left turn movement into the entrance driveway from eastbound Jackson Mills Road would operate at level of service A. The county has conceptually approved our access plan, as Mr. Halpert testified to, so that part of the issue, I think, with respect to how the driveways are oriented, the county has accepted that. As Mr. Halpert indicated, the county will also require a 23-foot cross-section from the center line of Jackson Mills Road on our side of the road, and what that will essentially do for us is kind of address one of the police department requirements or issues that they had. They wanted us to provide a full right turn deceleration lane into the entrance driveway. The county does not require that simply because of you have to reach that threshold of 200 parking spaces in order to require the full deceleration lane. However, with the 23-foot cross-section that the county is requiring, we can provide a 12-foot travel lane and an 11-foot shoulder, which for all intents and purposes will serve for decelerating vehicles and make it safe for vehicles to get out of the travel lane and to decelerate in order to enter the driveway. The other issue the police department had that I would like to comment on is the ability to legally make a left turn across a double yellow line. We did provide the police department with a letter from the NJDOT, which we obtained some time ago, because this issue has come up all the time, and the police department does agree that you can make a left turn now after they've read the DOT interpretation of the motor vehicle and traffic laws, that you can make a left turn across a double yellow line.
Would there be striping to indicate that? I noticed on several of the roads in Jackson now, they're having
You break the striping up,
to
so...
break the striping up. So
We...
that-
What's that?
Right.
No, it's a good question, because in some cases, the striping is broken up to make it obvious to people that you can make the left turn. It's not done in every situation. It is something that we could, if we get to the point where we get an approval for a certain size building, we can go back to the county with a break in the striping, if that's the desire of the board, and see if the county will approve it.
I think that makes sense,
Okay.
because although some people just flaunt the laws and cross those yellow lines, we can stripe it appropriately, then people will know what they can do.
We can go back to the county with a revision to the striping.
Great, thank you.
And I'm going to have to revise the traffic study, because even though we're going to be downsizing the building, the county always requires that the studies be updated to reflect exactly what the township approves. So I'll have to revise the traffic
It'll
study
go,
for the
maybe
county.
your B will go to an A.
Maybe. I doubt it, but maybe. But that's, it's a good call.
I just have one question here regarding the Jackson Township Police Department Traffic Safety Unit letter, March 7th, 2025. Now, they agree with you that you can make left turns crossing a double yellow. However, they don't consider where that exit comes out a double yellow. They consider it a median, painted median, dividing section. And in their letter, it states here that they feel that anyone making a left turn over that median would be in violation of NJSA 39:4-82.1. Are they correct?
In my opinion, no. I hate to disagree with the police because I love them, but I don't think that's a proper interpretation of the motor vehicle and traffic law. I think we have a neighbor here who has a driveway. I'm sure she's made left turns out of her driveway. There you go. And she's never gotten a ticket. So I think it's an improper interpretation, but I'll leave it at that and let a judge determine that one day.
And maybe the striping issue will
That could
alleviate
alleviate this, yeah, if we get the county to agree to a break in the striping, that should alleviate that issue.
That was going to be my second question, thank you. The
Okay.
Chairwoman, and sometimes we do think alike a lot. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, I'm going to add to what you were just talking about, though. It is a two-lane merge section at that point, correct?
Heading across our frontage, yes.
Yeah, which is why Jackson Police put it. So now with two lanes merging at high speed into one, you may actually be not wrong, but overlooking the fact that people are too busy merging, and there's been accidents there. I drive that way every day. So a left out of there is extremely dangerous. And in my eyes, it should be a median across and no lefts out there, because you have two people that are fighting each other trying to get past your building. You're creating a problem.
Well, the county is asking us to widen across our property frontage to kind of take care of somewhat of that situation. Again,
Well, no, that's making it actually worse now, because you're going to have two lanes going further racing for that spot, because people drive like maniacs there.
I'm sorry, I won't debate this. I respectfully disagree, and if you restrict that left
You're
turn
right.
out of the, all I ask is if you restrict that left turn out of that driveway, just think about where people make U-turns to get back in that direction. It's the law of unintended consequences. It's going to be much worse. And the sight distance is good, and the signal up at East Commodore provides gaps in the westbound traffic flow, and the county has approved it. So I'll leave it at that.
Isn't it better, though, that they make the mistake making a U-turn than you build
No,
something
not
that
in my
makes them
opinion.
make a mistake?
I don't want them making U-turns in somebody's driveway down Jackson Mills Road.
Jackson Police can sit there and handle that part of it.
Okay?
I get it. It's-
Thank
I've
you.
answered to the best of my ability.
Anyone else? I'm a big fan of the new striping that's going on. I think all of this, the police have done a wonderful job in Jackson of changing some of our stripings down our major streets. I'm thinking of New Prospect, a big improvement on that road that informs drivers about appropriate places to turn and to move to the middle.
Dr. Campbell, having done traffic studies in all 21 counties across the state, the Ocean County engineers are pretty good. We're lucky to have them and the Monmouth County engineers. You don't want to deal with some of these other, you don't want to deal with Middlesex, that's all I can tell you.
Okay.
Anybody here from Middle, no, okay.
Any
I'm sorry.
other questions from the board?
That's right.
Our professionals, anything to say? Now, just a minute, ma'am. That we have a process. I know you haven't been here before, so I'm going to explain the process. We allow for two different types of resident input. The first time you come up, you will address questions to those professionals who have given testimony. That will be your first opportunity. After that section closes, then we'll open again, and you may make additional comments. First time is questions. So we have another process. So we'll now look for a motion to open to public comment.
So moved, Sullivan.
Second, Rose.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so now, and then you have another little rigmarole you get to go through, too.
All right, so this part is for cross-examination of any of the experts that just had direct testimony. All right, so do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, please
All
state
right.
your name and spell your last for the record.
Use the microphone, please. It's being recorded. Thank you.
Diane Craig,
Oh,
K-R-A-G-H.
you got to speak into it.
Closer?
You have to get close to the microphone.
Diane Craig, K-R-A-G-H, 189 Jackson Mills Road. I have a question, I guess, for the traffic man. Just a question if, when you're redoing it, if you're going to have people going and turning left. into
Ma'am,
the
you have to
drive-
speak into the microphone. I'm sorry.
Sorry. If people are going, I guess you're saying it's east towards East Commodore.
Commodore, right.
And they're turning left into the building, I think there should be a separate lane for them with an arrow that they go for left, like they have
A
on
dedicated
Whitesfield
left
Road.
turn lane?
A dedicated left, otherwise they're going to back way up. So-
The traffic study indicates that that left turn movement into the driveway, based upon the opposing traffic flow, is what we call level of service A, with very minimal delay for the left turn. So the county hasn't required the left turn lane. I understand what you're saying. It's very hard for a traffic engineer to argue against a left turn lane, but the county hasn't required it based on the traffic study. But I understand what you're saying.
Okay, basically, that was it. It looks like a very nice building, and my other comment, I guess, would be reserved
Okay,
for
so
later.
we'll go out of this session. We'll look for a motion. You don't have to move.
I'd like to
It's
make
only you.
I'd like to make a motion to close the cross-examination portion of the testimony. Sullivan?
Second, Heller?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, now, we will now open another section.
I'd like to make a motion to open the public testimony section of this application. Sullivan?
Second, Rose.
Thank you. So do I have to do this again, or I already did that? That's okay.
You're good.
Okay, my comment would be, I live right across the street, and the building, although beautiful, will change all of my privacy. Being a 3-story building, they'll be able to see right over my house into my backyard or my recreation area. And I know we are zoned residential. When we bought the house, we had some kind of business zoning that was taken away. It was just a tiny business zoning, maybe R10, R20, something like that. But that disappeared, and nobody could ever tell me why it went, but it did. And so I'm wondering, if you're going to do this heavy commercial, shouldn't our side be changed for when we sell? So that we would, it really doesn't fit being residential next to a building like that. That would be my comment. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you for your
Thank
comment. Zoning is an odd kettle of fish. I've been dealing with it maybe the last 10 years and have learned a great deal. This is, I believe, an LC zone, so it is light commercial zone. It's been light commercial zone, I believe, for about the last 20 years. We aren't in the habit of making those changes at this point in this body. That is looked at in the master plan, which we are also working on, but I appreciate your comments. As far as losing your privacy, this building is set back quite a way, so I think that it won't be as intrusive for you as you may believe it to be right now, just looking at it. It's set back quite far, and, you know, then there's a wider roadway now than there has been. I don't think it'll be as tough on you as you think, but I understand your concerns. Thank you. Thank you for being here. All right.
I'd
Any
like to-
comments?
oh, it's good.
Let's close
I'd like to make
this.
a motion to close the public testimony portion of this application. Sullivan?
Second, Heller?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Now, any comments from our professionals? Any questions or comments from the board? And would you like to make a closing statement?
Just very quickly, we are dealing with a permitted use. I think with the back and forth with the board and the board's professionals, we have agreed to a number of conditions to modify the plan to get it more into conformance with the zoning ordinance. So at this time, the only thing that we're actually seeking relief from is the height variance, which I believe, as everyone's indicated, it is a beautiful-looking building. We want it to be a Class A building, so you need those 10-foot-high floors, and you need to have enough room for all the heating and ventilating that goes in between the floors. It is set back quite a distance from the road, so I think that it'll have not a great impact on the public or the neighborhood, and we would just respectfully request that the board grant an approval.
The applicant's still seeking the waiver for the buffering with the solid vinyl fence, correct?
Yes. Mhm.
All right, and just to sum this up for the board, so we only have 2 waivers, 1 C2 variance. The Purposes of the municipal land use law that the applicant put on record was C, E, G, and I for the height variance. Given the depth that this is from the road, take that into consideration as well. And then that's what's before us.
All right.
Look for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve this application with the two variances, the C2 height variance, as well as the variance for the...
One variance, just one, just the
Oh,
height
it's all
variance.
one?
Yeah.
Okay. The C2 height variance.
With the waivers.
With the waivers. And it's a very good project, and I look forward to seeing it completed. Thank you.
We need a second.
Second, Rose.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Heller?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers? Yes. Mr. Dreamer?
Yes.
Ms. Rose?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Dr. Campbell?
Yes, and I do appreciate the concessions that have been made. I think we have had a good evening working together on a project that will be good for the applicant and good for Jackson. Thank you.
Thank you, and have a good evening.
Motion to close?
Entertain a motion to close.
Motion to close, Dreamer?
Second, Rose.
All in favor?
Aye.
And there will be no meeting on April